Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And in the middle of March Madness, basically the end of the month, we got to watch Duke choke again. And I was very surprised because I've been going into this last month where everyone complains about NIL. Everyone complains about the transfer portal. In the meantime, Wade leaves NC State high and dry right after we did the show. I think we've been doing them early because my schedule's a mess. And so that's why if they're shorter, they're like disconjointed. That's why. Blame it on me playing adult softball as a grown man in my free time. Probably about to rip a hamstring off at any moment. Right? So that's why schedule's been a little bit crazier. But no one complains, right? LSU has to be a total disaster right now. I don't know how you can be paying multiple coaches hundreds of millions of dollars. Not only in, hey, we're trying to like build up a roster, or we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. Because I've heard it from fans in the SEC, listen to the show, coming back where like, oh, Michigan has a coaching change. Wait till LSU buys out Bryce Underwood's NIL. And I'm sitting here thinking, with what money? Right? They're already paying Brian Kelly. They fired him for no reason. Tried to take him to court. Didn't work out. Happened again for basketball. The buyout for their coach went down, I think, April 1st. Instead, they leak it out that they're trying to hire Wade back. They tried to put the thing out saying like, oh, everything he did is like purely legal now, right? The tampering? No, not really. And that's why it cracks me up when I hear it from too many rival Big Ten fans, which it doesn't bother me at this point at all. It makes me laugh that they're like, oh, it has to be Michigan tampering. Like Michigan's too good at basketball. They have to be the ones tampering. And meanwhile, when our coach leaves football to Texas, Oregon, Miami, instantly trying to buy off all of our recruits, LSU, in football. No one says a word, right? Clearly tampering. No big deal. What was it? Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State announces he's being tampered with. Miami, Oregon, right? They're throwing tons of money at him. And no one cares. They're just like, oh, okay. Well, he's good. Right? They have to tamper with him. And that's what cracks me up. So anytime someone's complaining about these players being able to transfer, I was an athlete myself. I don't care. They should be able to transfer. If a coach can just randomly pick up and leave after they were fired for cause, right, of an investigation, everyone says like, well, even in one of the Final Four articles about Michigan, someone brought up Harbaugh and how he was bending the rules. It's like LSU is laughing in the face of the NCAA hiring back their coach known for breaking the rules. But, well, because the rules have changed, no big deal. Same with like Michigan. You know the rules changed, right? People are allowed to have headphones. So you could say the exact same thing about Harbaugh. Doesn't matter. Rules changed, right? What they were doing doesn't really matter anymore. Sign stealing. They have headsets now. But the people don't use that argument. For whatever reason, LSU's throwing that out there. I don't know how other SEC fans can feel. Right? They took it hard last week. How many beatdowns from Michigan basketball did they suffer? That Tennessee game was like a non-compete. That was like us playing like Penn State back in the day when they missed the playoffs and they were like, yeah, that was a non-competitive game they had against Michigan, so too bad. Tennessee comes in, back-to-back, Alabama first. And Alabama, they were making excuses like, oh, yeah, if we had our guy back from prison or we had our guy back from the NBA we tried to hire, like, that's all cool. SEC can just bring a guy back that's in the NBA, 28 years old or whatever he was, and they're like, yeah, you can come play for us for a little bit in the middle of the season. In the middle of the season, they have him playing. And then the court's like, no, what are you doing, guys? Because then there's going to be no rules. But again, transfer's bad. Bringing dudes back from NBA, good. So I hear guys like Tom Izzo complaining about the portal. Bro, just retire. The Big Ten is 100% making out right now with legal paying of players. 100% the Big Ten is out of the shadow. It's not a coincidence that all those other teams, like Kansas and everybody, I know there are some Big Ten teams listed too, for paying basketball players from that FBI wiretap. No one says a word. Now that paying is legal, you have teams like Indiana being good in football. They have never been good at football. Right? They're not even good at basketball. I was wondering, like, are they even a blue blood in basketball? Everyone says they were, but in my lifetime, Indiana hasn't been good at basketball. So you're like watching like old Hoosier movies maybe, and you're like, yeah, they used to be good. If they're a blue blood, Pitt football is a blue blood. Right? I know it probably wasn't that far away, but Pitt was good in the 70s. That's when Indiana was supposed to be good. Pitt has like 9, 10 national championships. They have more ACC championships in Miami. So you can't say, well, Indiana, you got to keep them a blue blood. And people fight for that. No one really brings up UCLA as like, oh, they should probably still be a blue blood too. Like, I never hear them mentioned. They have the most national championships, and everyone's like, yeah, they had one good guy for like 10 years. Like, that's it. They've stunk every other time. Indiana stinks. Indiana stinks. So why are they a blue blood? I don't get it. And then everyone's trying to fight to keep UConn out. UConn could be the most dominant basketball program in my life. They probably are. Right? And it comes on the strength of them every time they're in, they win the national championship. No one considers them. Like, everyone's always arguing against them. Like, well, they're not as good as Kansas. Kansas made the game. Right? So we have to have good. You don't hear people arguing like Rutgers had the first football game. They're supposed to be good. No one makes that argument. They just laugh at Rutgers. So Kansas and all them, they're hurting right now. Kentucky, that's why I thought it was funny when Yax was talking about them trying to like just throw tons of money at him because they're trying to stay relevant. Meanwhile, their old coach wins the SEC tournament. Has to hurt him. Has to hurt him.
Going would be great.
So Duke's in the same position right now. Haven't won a national championship in like 10 years. I would say they're one of the top 3 in my lifetime. It's really been Duke, UNC, and UConn. I think have been the best programs. Florida's close up there too. No one considers Florida any good because they don't make as many Final Fours or whatever. They just win the national championship, which has to count for something. So this UConn team right now, if they win the national championship, best program of my life, right? That would be like what? 3 different coaches winning like 5 national championships, 6 national championships. That's insane. Get out of here. UNC, Duke, no. I don't care if you guys have better recruits. Someone had a list of all the recruits out there that Duke had on their team, like Tatum and everybody, that didn't win a national championship. Okay. You get great recruits. Awesome, guys. But that doesn't make you like the best program. If UConn wins it, I'm saying write it down. I don't know what the other national championships are. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I should have looked it up before the show. But I'm saying that most programs only have like 5. And so if UConn can get ahead of that, you have to keep them in the argument. I'm surprised the ACC right now really isn't just extending them an invite. Hey, we're falling apart. We don't have anyone on the relevant stage like Duke's in here. They're blowing it. Duke has 5. UConn already has 6. All in my lifetime. If they win a 7th, they pass North Carolina up. They'd be 1 behind Kentucky. Kentucky has like a ton. Kansas only has 4. They try to add 5 to be like Indiana and Duke because they have like the weird Helms banner. I'm pretty sure Pitt has one of those too. And so to me, that's the difference. There's like a group of teams that are the best. If you include UCLA, I guess UCLA has one in my lifetime, but I just don't remember that 95 team. Then you have Kentucky, North Carolina, and UConn tied for 3rd. Like UConn has to be the best program of my lifetime. I think they are by far. North Carolina has like championships from like the 50s. So no. Villanova's been good too. I gave Florida a shout out, but Villanova's been close. They have 3 total. One was in the 80s, but 2 recently. Michigan's been there. They just haven't won anything. That goes for a lot of the Big Ten teams. Michigan State too, where I think if you want to be on that next level, because I've seen an updated like count that the Big Ten's been passing around, where they have like the most Final Fours, most Elite Eights, like up to date, and Michigan and Michigan State are just like up there, right below like North Carolina and Duke and them. And it's great that you have a bunch of Final Fours, but you have to win a couple national championships. I think right now 5 is the threshold, which is why Kansas adds that fake one in, because they know, they're like, include us, right? Include us. Otherwise, like, why are we here? And so I didn't realize that was a 6 for UConn. But yeah, man, 3 different coaches. I think Calhoun, who was it? Ollie, and now Hurley. Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if you watched the game.
Yeah.
But they thought Hurley was going to be speculated to go to North Carolina.
But didn't he play at UConn?
I think he was Duke.
Was he at Duke? I saw a screenshot and it was like, here he is. And then, actually, no, he was at Seton Hall was his playing career. So that makes sense why I didn't know which one it was. He was in blue. Was Seton Hall even blue? Yeah, they are blue.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like Duke's colors, and so I just assumed it was like an older UConn. But no, he's from New Jersey. So, yeah, I could see it if North Carolina wants to throw money at him. I know North Carolina has been talking about getting Dusty May, which is funny because I remember when he was hired from FAU, and I thought, man, he seems like he's a great coach. Like I watched a lot of their games in that tournament, and I know a lot of people discredit him because like, oh, their path was easy. And Ohio State had the opening first. And they were like talking about possibly hiring him, and then they hired internally, and they put out like statements saying like we just didn't think he was that good. Right? And so now that Michigan's winning, I just keep seeing the Ohio State like takes back on my timeline, and it makes me laugh. Because they're like, yeah, he beat a 16 seed during his run to the Final Four, because I think that was the year that Virginia lost. Or no, it was the year Purdue lost to the 16 seed, right? So instead of playing Purdue, they got the easy path. And so that's what everyone was saying. This year, they're there. Last year, they were close, man. Close to getting it. I think, was it an Elite 8 or Sweet 16? Or maybe it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was before him. And that might have been a Jawan year. I can't remember. Maybe it's 2021. But, I mean, that's the one job that's going to be crazy. If they can get Hurley away, I mean, some of the sets that they run on offense, they just look smooth. I'm just baffled, like, because it doesn't look like they recruit at a high level. So their success has to be coaching or culture. I mean, their women's basketball team is like the best. People talk about like Saban being this great coach, but he's nowhere near what UConn women basketball is, which is crazy. Like, some of these teams are coming in supposed to be just as good, and they're getting killed by like 20 points in like halftime. So what do you do? And so the other one is I
was actually surprised. I watched part of that UConn game, and the lead was just growing on. I was like, oh, this is going to be a blowout. Like, they're going to get washed out. I looked at the next morning, was like, oh, they choked.
Well, see, I was thinking all year, and I'm not saying, a lot of people are saying the winner of Arizona Michigan is going to be the national champ. And with UConn being so hot, I don't see it that way. But all year, if you look at all the analytics, there was like a big split between Duke, Arizona, and Michigan were all virtually tied. Michigan lost to Duke in a neutral site game in like February by like 3 or something, 5. I don't remember what it was. But that basically swang the seeding for the tournament to where Duke was on the side with a much weaker number 1 seed, Florida, that obviously got upset and they weren't even involved. And so everything's been coming down to where I kept thinking Duke's going to have one hard game. Right, they're lucking through this tournament. They're like not even focused. They're barely beating like Siena or whatever team they struggled with. And I thought they're going to come in. Michigan, Arizona are going to beat each other up, and Duke's going to just walk to a national championship. And it's going to be killer because it was all because of that non-conference game in February that changed the rankings to boost them to number 1. Because otherwise, Arizona, I think, had the analytics to be number 1. But because Duke had like the higher win, and that's against Michigan that was virtually tied, they kind of bumped Michigan. Michigan was 2 until they lost to Purdue, which that loss could have been crazy because Purdue had given Arizona a fight. I don't know if that's going to wake them up against a Michigan game. We'll find out. But I think Duke has to be kicking themselves because the way the bracket worked out. UConn, I mean, they were like a good 2 seed. At one point, they almost were the number 1 seed, the 4th one, and they went on a spell where they were losing to teams they shouldn't have lost to. And they have that one big center, which breaks my heart because he used to be a Michigan guy, Terrace Reed. He played for Juwan Howard, and whenever they went through the coaching change, he transferred. Where it's like, man, if we would have kept him on this team, could you imagine? Oh my gosh, that'd be a shoo-in for the national championship. So I don't know. UConn has the talent. They're playing like that freshman guy that hit the shot. He wasn't even shooting well. For him to put that up from almost half court had to have been crazy for him. But I still think, I mean, nothing against Shire, like as Duke's coach, UC or UNC is really shooting for the stars here. If they can get Hurley or May, or they're trying to get Arizona's Lloyd. So 3 of the final 4 coaches they're rumored to be trying to reach out to. I would think that's a steal for them. I don't know where these other teams go, right? I also don't see any of them leaving. And that's just a different thing. Why would you go to a program in basketball with NIL that anything can happen? Look at what happened with Calipari getting run out of Kentucky. He's obviously a good coach. He just won the SEC tournament with Arkansas. And then Kentucky's doing what? Nothing. So why would you go to UNC? Their coach had just had them as runner-up like a year or 2 ago. They were the runner-up. He could have won a national championship. Yeah, I've seen that they've had a couple blowouts. Yeah, their rosters went through injuries or whatever. It's basketball, right? Tom Izzo had some down years. But if you have that stability, I think that takes you a lot farther than, say, football, where you could be a coach that just has a scheme that works, everyone catches up, and then you're on the downside, right? In basketball, there's only so much you can do. You can put wrinkles in, but as I saw with John Beilein when he reinvented himself, you can hire young up-and-coming coaches to come in, bring your defensive philosophy in, and shift. Because Michigan ran like a 1-3-1, changed it up based on talent when Beilein was here, and then they got back to the national championship game and were runners-up again. So UNC going through and just firing coaches and trying to get someone better, we'll see if it works out. They also really don't have the money is what I've heard down here. They're playing Belichick. I've heard they're trying to get maybe one of the coaches from the NBA. If they can bring back like Donovan or someone. Brad Stevens, like maybe. I don't know what they're shooting for the stars, obviously. But with today, you don't have to get a coach to recruit, though.
Do you think Michael Jordan comes back?
I've seen that they are trying to get him to come back. Or there has been rumored that they want him to be like an advisor or something at the minimum. Because look how good he's doing at NASCAR. But again, it's all about people building. Right? The last time they won the national championship was the year he came out and did that speech about the ceiling is the roof or whatever. Isn't that like the last time? So he obviously has sway. I just don't know what they're supposed to do. Because going back to the Duke thing, I don't know what I thought Shire had a timeout. Maybe he didn't. No, I think he did. They had 10 seconds. It was 100% coaching. I thought UConn had no chance. I thought, man, they blew it. Right? They came down. They ran that horrible play down the baseline. The guy like got blocked or whatever. They ran out of, I forget if they ran out of like shot clock or what. They didn't even get a shot off. And I thought, well, that's like the worst way to end. Right? Because on the other side, we could be talking about how horrible Hurley is at end of game. I mean, he has 2 national championships, so what are you going to say to him? But that play, I don't know. And so they come back. All Duke has to do is catch the ball. They could have held it because they didn't have to pass mid-court where it seemed like there was confusion. Because when they got the second pass, they were done. All he had to do was stand there.
Yeah.
And instead he tried to throw it up like he needed to go past half court, and UConn was there waiting for it. Where even if, because that's what I understood, like he had to have seen the guys jump in front of him. Why didn't he just pump fake it and then dribble around him? I mean, you're talking about a kid here, though, so I don't want to talk trash on them. They were in a million commercials, which would drive me nuts. Those Boozer commercials or whatever. You called Dad. Did you see those? I couldn't take it. But yeah, this UConn team isn't bad. So for everyone that's saying that the winner of Arizona and Michigan is going to win the national championship, UConn lost to Arizona by 4 early in the year. It wasn't a blowout. They lost 2 of their games to St. John's. The St. John's almost beat Duke. We almost had a St. John's UConn rematch to go to the Final Four. But St. John's blew them out both times. I think that's where people are looking at it, where, oh, you're losing to teams that are also built with just like big, powerful centers or whatever, and they're blowing you out. That's kind of what Arizona and Michigan do. So we'll see. Illinois, I have no idea. Michigan beat Illinois pretty handily to win the Big Ten regular season title. They're on a roll. It's in Indiana. I could see them winning. I think a big win for the Big Ten would finally to be able to win the national championship. I think the safest way is if they can get an Illinois-Michigan national championship to avoid the letdown. I think the odds of that have to be like 2%. Right? I think Michigan-Arizona is a toss-up. And then I think Illinois would have to be dogs. I don't know how much. But I'm thinking it's going to be UConn. If I had to bet, I would probably say UConn-Arizona. I hope Michigan wins. But Michigan's the only big team that had an injury, backup point guard, torn ACL. And when you're getting this deep in the tournament, guys start to get a little bit tired. And when you have one of your key guys out, it's bound to show up. I thought it was crazy the Duke guy came back with a broken foot and played in 3 weeks. Credit to him.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, that'll be good. If Michigan makes it to the national championship game against Duke, both teams will have someone injured. And then he comes out and plays, and he plays awesome. It was the whole reason they beat St. John's, I think. And I was like, oh, man. Are you kidding? He's back. Right? Just tearing it up. UConn did beat St. John's one time, though. It looks like I didn't catch it. And they killed him in the regular season. So they lost to him in the Big East tournament bad. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends on what's the shooting night. Is it going to be a good shooting night? Michigan State almost beat them. Michigan State couldn't score. I think their stud only had 2 points. UCLA didn't really hang around, and then they beat Furman. So, Illinois, UConn. I think we're going to get a good tournament. I see people complaining about NILs making it horrible. Let's move past it, right? Yeah, you're not going to get maybe, like I said, you're not going to get so many Cinderella teams. But my main thing right now is if they want to get more Cinderella teams, you have to stop putting in 10 teams from the SEC. Right? I know they're not going to do a limit. But when some of these teams are like 16 and 15 or whatever, I know I used Texas as an example, and they went on a run. And they very could have easily been in the Final Four against Michigan if they would have pulled out that game against Purdue, right? So would it take a tip in to beat them? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the tournament is exactly what they want. You have major programs, big TV draws in the Final Four. Even though Duke didn't make it, I would think UConn has to be a name at this point. And then you have Michigan and Illinois, 2 large alumni groups, with Arizona, the biggest basketball program out west other than UCLA probably. So I think it's been a success for this. That's why I thought it was funny. There's one commercial for like the tournament, and it's like people getting debit cards for like USC and Stanford. And I'm like, have these programs ever been good at basketball? Like, why would their fans be getting a March Madness debit card, right?
I felt like Arizona's they've knocked on the door. It's just they just have trouble getting over the hump.
Yeah, same with Michigan. That's why it'll be a good game. That's why I'm saying people that are writing in the winner of that game, these programs are known to get there and just not have enough to get over the hump. That's why, like, Duke having the most talented team, even if the stats don't say that they're the best, right? I think that UConn win could really put that in perspective where, okay, if they, whatever the winner of that game is, I think that's the late game, if I'm not mistaken. So if Illinois wins, beats UConn first, I think they have to smell blood in the water, right? At least Michigan has to feel like we can take this team out. Arizona probably thinking, hey, if we beat Michigan and we saw them just take out Illinois pretty easy, then we can win this game. Like, we're going to be national champs. But that's where you can't lose focus, right? You can't blow it off saying like, oh, we just beat Michigan and they're playing Illinois that Michigan handled pretty easy, so we're going to be penciling it in. And then they come out flat and lose a game. And then you have like a 3 seed Illinois winning it, which I think would be the most heartbreaking for fellow Michigan fans, right? Like, hey, we won the regular season title. We were right there. We choked, and then that was it. So we'll see how it goes. But that's pretty much it. I'm not going to really do too much NFL stuff because we know we're focusing around. The other thing that we want to talk about is the UFL's back, right? I didn't know. Did you?
I feel poorly over the fact that I didn't know that it was back, and I found out while games were being played that it was back, because I thought, we were just talking last week about how we're in the dead zone and we know that there's going to be football coming back, and I think our eye was more on the scramble of the upcoming NFL draft. And I knew that the UFL's spring league and coming up, but I was like, I thought, was it a scenario that I just completely missed advertisements? Like, I don't recall seeing anything that's saying like, hey, the season's coming up. We're, here's some of the matchups that we have. Like, oh crap. It was like we were at a restaurant and I saw the games were on. And like, the irony was that I saw the Battlehawks playing and I thought, are they just showing like a repeat of last year's game? Like, is it like a teaser for like the following week that the games are going to start? I was like, that doesn't make sense. And then I pulled it up on my phone. I was like, holy crap, the season's back right now.
Well, see, that's the one thing I talked about. I think it would work better if it happened a little bit earlier, before the college basketball things. And I'd probably look at this differently in regards to like Michigan making it as far as our basketball team has done so far, right? Because if Michigan wasn't in it, would I really be paying that close of attention to the tournament? Probably not, right? It really depends on what the teams were. Last year, a lot of SEC teams in. It seemed like more of a different style of basketball, and I just really wasn't into it. It's another one of those things, too, where their coach can get in trouble, and they can, like, investigate him. No big news coverage. Like, no one cares about Florida, right? If that was Michigan's coach, we would still be in the news cycle, like, 30 years later, right? People would bring it up, making fun of them. I feel like only us, like, we bring it up. Maybe some other coaches or some other, like, fans of teams down there can make fun of their coach, but no one else, like, in the media really mentions it. Like, oh, that guy could be a perv out there, right? We don't know. They kind of looked into it and they kind of just dropped it, and they're like, this guy could win the national championship. We got to keep him out of the news. Where any other team, that's how you know if a team has enough hate or not, right? Michigan's under fire right now because their coach is assembling a team of mercenaries, is what everyone's saying. Awesome. Like, we get it. I watched a Duke game, and I know people don't like UConn because the ref that's 100% pro Duke got in his face after that made three. He came up and headbutted him, and I saw the news made it seem like Hurley headbutted him. Where it's like, okay, they were both kind of there, but why is the ref going over to him? What's he going to tell him? Right? He clearly got into his face, probably warning him to give him a technical. Could you imagine if that's how the game ended? Like, technical on Hurley, and then Duke hits 2 free throws. there would have been mayhem. So,
true March Madness.
But see, UFL could avoid all of this stuff because there was a dead period for football. No one's watching regular season college basketball. No one's watching like NBA All-Star Game anymore. The World Series of Baseball or whatever was on. So Fox could have had a pure lead into that, the World Baseball Classic, and maybe that's why they kind of pushed it back. But you need lead-in material. Heck, CBS uses the NCAA tournament to lead in the 60 minutes. Right? Okay. Why doesn't Fox just use the UFL to lead into the World Baseball Classic? That would at least give me something that, okay, I know the World Baseball Classic's on. Even if I forgot about the UFL, I could have turned it on and had it on. Now, the Baseball Classic, I think, was like weekdays, though, too. But they could easily make their way around it. It's not like they're getting a ton of people going to the game. So I want to see more coverage of it. I know they really try to highlight it around the NFL draft. I've seen draft ads. I have not seen any ads for the UFL. And that's what makes me sad. So that's what I wanted to add in before we wrap up. Is there anything else you want to talk about this week?
Just with watching the UFL games, I know in the past we've been critical of other spring leagues and the product of the games. I kind of felt like the matchups this weekend were pretty fairly balanced. I know the scores weren't fully like close shootouts, but I felt like they're getting better with matching talent across the teams and across leagues. And I think that when you're having the spring league, there's going to be room for improvements. And it's just, I think you're seeing the consistency winning out in this league, that it's being as the developmental league that they wanted it to be.
And that's where I think people start to, I talked about this before too, where we're only having a handful of teams. And if it's evenly matched, people are going to see teams that are like 4-4, like they would in Big Ten football, and say like, I'm not watching Illinois play Purdue here. Right? Even if Illinois is like 8-2, people are still skeptical. So I think having no one to really beat a team down, unless you're like hyping it up like the SEC, where you're like, all of our 4-4 teams are good. Right? But they're not doing that. So I think they're at the mercy of having only a handful of teams. Some of them move around. Like Louisville Kings has to be new, right? I don't remember them.
Louisville's new, and so is Columbus.
Columbus, yeah, because that was the Michigan team, right? The Michigan Panthers was one of them.
Yeah,
I don't remember what other one moved, right? Was it New York? Is there a New York team?
Would have been Pittsburgh, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. Did Pittsburgh have a team?
They had the Maulers, and then when the USFL got consolidated in, that was one of the ones that got bounced.
Yeah. I don't remember, last year what teams ended up. I knew Michigan had a team, the Panthers, still. I'm pretty sure. And I knew that they were going to move. But since I forgot about the league, I wasn't keeping an eye on it. And so that's where I want to see, we'll keep an eye on it, but I want to see more promotion, even from the NFL side. I know it's on the NFL Network starting next week. I think the first week was only on ESPN and Fox. But still, man, I was watching a lot of ESPN hockey, and I did not see UFL mentioned because I was watching the Michigan, or keeping my eye on the Michigan and the NCAA hockey tournament, because Michigan made the Frozen Four too. So I've seen a lot of ads for the women's basketball tournament on there, but you would think that they would at least throw the UFL at least one bone.
I was dying during the Houston Dallas game. The Renegades offensive coordinator Noel Mazzoni was having issues with getting the plays in. And it was it's kind of like when you turn the headsets on, or you turn the power button on and off, or if you're hitting buttons and it like makes like a chirping noise. It was like he kept hitting the button, and the quarterback was like, "Are you hitting buttons? Like you need to knock it off." And like they kept like the mics live between the coach and quarterback. So then like they got to the sideline, and like he's like, "Hey, are you serious? Like you got to quit hitting the button. You're driving me nuts out there." Like it was like a hot mic moment. Where it was like clearly like you could hear the issue, and then they were still like working it out up to halftime. It was like I'm sure they talked about it in the locker room. Like, are you messing with the headsets, or is this something with the league?
Well, that is funny, but yeah, you'll get. I like how they do the insider views because some of the smaller conferences, ACC was messing around with that. Where I don't know if we'll see a lot of the improvements. Like, what were they doing in the ACC where they were going through and doing the replays live? But that's one improvement that I would like to see them continue. I don't know if the UFL is doing it because I didn't catch any of the games, but I'm hoping that they steal that since they're doing a lot of the live mic stuff that has been slowly making its way in. You know they're not really going to do that in the NFL. That's more of like a college thing that they've been rolling out. So I hope they keep improving that because I think that's a cool insight into the games themselves. But is there anything else you want to talk about this week?
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, schedule's going to be rough in the offseason for the next couple of weeks. So if there's anything you want us to hit on, let us know. Go Blue, and we'll see you next week.